Welcome to the Forged by Trust podcast. I'm your host, Robin Dreeke, former U.S. Marine, spy recruiter, best-selling author, and your trust and communications expert. Today's episode is brought to you by my guest, veteran Navy SEAL and Fortune 500 entrepreneur, Alden Mills, in his free goals course. Why do some people amaze even themselves with what they can accomplish while others never reach their potential? Now is the time to receive clarity so you can be the unstoppable force that you truly are. This course is entirely free of charge, so take this course. Get the foundation you need to become unstoppable anytime, anywhere in the Unstoppable Goals course. In this 5-lesson course, you'll learn about the Unstoppable Goal System, how to set the right goals for you, creating your life's vision, and the key to making your dreams come true. Coming up next on the Forged by Trust podcast.
Nobody defines what you can or can't do but you. I often will tell folks it's about the friction. If we don't have any friction, we don't get forward progress. It's like a car spinning its wheels on ice. And that's the greatest gift I think you can give anybody, is in that moment where they're feeling weakest, that they can tap in to you, to your show, to other people on the show going, oh, that was exactly what I needed to hear at this moment. And being very deeply curious and willing to build trusting relationships with all kinds of diverse personalities at a very early age, because I needed them.
Right.
I couldn't do it by myself. I just knew it.
Welcome to the show. I'm Robin Dreeke, and on the Forged by Trust podcast, we decode the interpersonal communication skills of the world's most acclaimed forgers of trust. We unlock the skills and techniques from spies, spy recruiters, master interrogators, globally recognized behavioral experts, C-suite executives, entrepreneurs, acclaimed authors, and thought leaders. Each episode provides specific actions that you can immediately apply to any aspect of your personal or professional life. Today's episode, Be Unstoppable, is with my great friend, fellow United States Naval Academy graduate and former Navy SEAL, Fortune 500 CEO, entrepreneur, author, and adventure Grand Slam seeker, Alden Mills. Alden Mills is a best-selling author of Be Unstoppable and Unstoppable Teams and a keynote speaker. His acronym for successful leadership practices, C.A.R.E, C-A.R.E, is described in Unstoppable Teams. Alden has experienced leading dynamic teams as a nationally recognized rower and 3-time Navy SEAL platoon commander. After his time in the Navy, he led his first company, Perfect Fitness, to over $90 million in sales in just 3 years. Now, Alden helps inspire other teams like Lennox International, Marriott, and USAA to be unstoppable. During the episode today, we talk about moving through adversity, becoming a Navy SEAL, and becoming unstoppable. What to do when you are stuck, and our biggest hindrances to being unstoppable. And there he is.
How we doing?
my new man crush. I've never opened up a podcast and said my man crush is here.
Hey, the feeling is mutual, brother. I love what you're doing.
Thanks. I love what you're doing. Other SEALs like yourself have said it's not about the training, it's actually about the performance, but you highlight the training in a way that really resonated with me. It's some training, but it's really learning how to think when things suck. Yeah. And how to keep moving forward when they suck. So you can find that reserve, as you talk about so much. And that's hence the title of the show, Be Unstoppable.
You know, I often will tell folks, it's about the friction. If we don't have any friction, we don't get forward progress. It's like a car spinning its wheels on ice. No friction, no forward progress.
Yeah.
No suck, no strength.
Yep.
Right? The struggle builds the strength. And it's so hard to shift your focus from the suck to, hey, I'm getting stronger.
Yeah. That's why we do the show, is helping someone maintain that context. And before you start anything, come up with the personal brand you want to represent, of just being a servant leader, being about others, and forging that trust, forging relationships so that you can accomplish the mission. And when you honor your brand, when things suck and it's easy to get self-centered, just always remind yourself, I must honor my brand in this moment, which is about being about others.
I just nod my head with you. I couldn't agree more, Robin.
So with that, Alden, I am so intrigued because you have all the great skills and traits for the audience to hear your origin story. It's pretty remarkable. If we could start there, how did you come up with this whole method and why in life of being unstoppable?
I didn't really appreciate it at first, but how lucky I was to have a mom in particular, dad too. Dad's still alive. Mom.
He's your diving buddy, I heard.
Yeah, exactly. So that's exactly right. And anyhow, mom, when I was 12, I had been bedridden. I was a very sickly kid. I had had pneumonia like 3 or 4 times, bronchitis a dozen times, and they thought I had spinal meningitis. So I got taken to the hospital in the middle of the night, had a spinal tap, which is a very uncomfortable experience. And so I did not have spinal meningitis. Thank God.
It's the worst thing in the
Yeah,
world.
so I'm in the ER and, they have you on your side and things are coming out both ends. It's a very not great piece of my life. But
And how old were you again? 12?
I was 12. And so I got sent to the big city of Worcester, Massachusetts. Now, I grew up in a small mill town in central Mass called Southbridge. So Worcester's not a big city, but they had a lung doctor, a pulmonologist there. And this guy looked like an older Danny DeVito with white wispy hair, bald top, thick Coke bottle glasses. He looked like he was constantly smelling sour milk, right? And he talked in a kind of nasally New England accent. And I walk into his office with my mom, and it's more like a laboratory, a bunch of machines, and you're blowing into different things, trying to get ping pong balls to stay in different areas. And he's recording everything I'm doing. My mom's there with me. And then he's got this laboratory table in the middle of his office. And he's like, stop. You don't have to do any more here. I see what the problem is. And he pulls up, I'm looking for ad hoc prop. He pulls up this piece of paper and he is like, you see this graph here? This graph that goes like this? You see these dots down here? This is the size of your son's lungs. You see, this is the average boy's size lungs. Your son's lungs are way down here. He's born with smaller than average lungs. And then he flips the paper over and he goes, and you see this graph? This is your airflow. He's way down here. You know why? Because he's got asthma. So here's what I'm going to recommend. Number one, he needs to lead a less active lifestyle. I suggest a game of chess. Right? He says that, my chin drops down to my chest. I'm like, oh my God. And number two, he's got to be on medicine for the rest of his life. And I didn't really hear the last piece as much as I was like, chess? And mom taps me on the shoulder and she goes, you know what? Why don't you go wait in the lobby and I'll talk to the good doctor from here. I remember sitting in that lobby. I can remember the brown linoleum tiles. I remember the crocodile tears and making puddles on the floor. And she comes out after a while in that offensive mom position with the hands on her hips, right? Looks at you, kicks my foot, and was like, what's wrong with you? And I'm like, Mom, chess. I'm terrible at checkers. How am I going to learn how to play chess? Right? I'm already there, right? Expert telling me, hey, you got to lead a less active lifestyle. Play the game of chess. And this is one of mom's most defining moments for me. And of course, the real transformation happened afterwards. And she drops down on a knee, pulls out her velociraptor type French cuticle filed nails, sticks them into my forearm. He says, now you look at me. Nobody defines what you can or can't do but you. Do you hear me? Now I'll get you that medicine, but you have to decide what you can or can't do. And she's like, do you understand? I'm like, yeah, I get it. Say it back to me. I'm like, okay. Nobody finds what I do, right? I say it back. And I didn't get it that day, right? I just wanted the clause to release. I didn't get it that week. But she and then dad would be like, so what if you scored on your own team in basketball? Go try another sport, right? I held the record at my school for scoring against my own team in basketball, lacrosse, soccer, and hockey. Ball sports were not my thing. But they kept giving me the confidence to keep trying. And that then created a cascading series of events where I finally found a sport I liked, and that was rowing. I could sit on my butt and go backwards for long periods of time. I love boats, grew up on the water. I was like, this is great. Rowing took me to the Naval Academy. Naval Academy took me to SEAL Team. SEAL Team gave me the confidence to build my own business. Build my own business is like, well, if I can do that, why can't I write a book? Write another book. Why can't I go out and help other people do that? And I really, if I trace it all back, it started with that moment.
How'd your mom get that way?
Mom,
What were her
heavy
parents like?
asthmatic. And she was like, look, I've dealt with this. I still go out and ski. I still do these things. And she was not super active triathlete person, but she was like my own first inspiration, my first leadership coach. And she used to tell me, like, I was kind of ADD, and she'd be like, you just need to learn to breathe through your feet. I want you to focus on breathing through your feet. Pretend your mouth is down by your feet. And I'm like, how does that work? Right. But she would do these kinds of things. And she would send me note cards at the Naval Academy because plebe year was not going well for good old Alden. And,
Yeah.
And
Especially years we were there. Those are bad years.
Yeah. But through it all, she just kept inspiring me. And, when it came time to decide to write this first book, Be Unstoppable, I was like, okay, well, who am I going to write for? And I was like, I'll write for my boys. And what do I want for them? And what I wanted for them is the same thing my mom wanted for me. She just wanted me to be unstoppable going after my dreams.
Right.
Whatever my dreams were. And that's the greatest gift I think you can give anybody, is in that moment where they're feeling weakest, that they can tap in to you, to your show, to other people on the show going, oh, that was exactly what I needed to hear at this moment. I'm going to get up again and try again.
So what's the next step? What did you do from there? Yeah, it almost sounds very Teddy Roosevelt like, where he's diagnosed with asthma when he's grown up, and he said, "Well, screw that." What did you do? Because to go from
that's funny you brought up Teddy Roosevelt,
because to go from that diagnosis to being able to make it through Buds and Hell Week, let alone the Naval Academy and crew. For those listening, if you don't understand, the only people at the Naval Academy generally go Navy SEALs are those that were on crew or swimmers, because of their hardcore tenacity. And also the fact that there's so few Navy SEALs that go there from the academy because it's such a small selection. I mean, you had to do well in order to be selected to go Navy SEAL. So walk us through that one. So you're diagnosed with this and you have to have, all right, so your mom says you can do it, but now what did you actually do?
So let me tell you, so this wasn't the light switch, right? And I just consolidated I just consolidated, I was 12, I'm now 53. So that's 41 years of life that I just consolidated for everybody. And the action was the consistency of getting up and persisting, of keeping trying, right? This asthma thing, I thought I kind of was over it, but to be honest, I kept taking and sneaking the medicine. And I was sneaking the medicine in Buds, and I was in second phase, and it caught up with me. And my lungs started filling up with blood on a 3-mile swim. Halfway through second phase, I had to raise my hand, which typically means I'm quitting in the swim. They came over and I got blood just pouring out of my mouth. So I become a medical issue. They take me to medical. They run blood work. They raid my room and they find the medicine and they put a document in front of me saying, you're getting medically dropped. Sign this. It's over. We don't allow asthmatics. And this became the next level of, and one of the reasons I really wanted to be with you today, Robin, is this forged by trust concept is really important. And I thought I was making trust until I had to say, I'm going to give these medications up. I did not sign the document. They made me go through this methacholine challenge. They put me out of the class. I got rolled back 5 or 7 weeks. I mean, it was miserable to have to go back and start. But this trust piece that I want to share with everybody is the ultimate form of trust. The only thing that sits above trust, but you have to have the trust to get there, is faith. And if you look at the first definition of faith, the first definition is not religious. That's the second definition. The first definition is having 100% confidence in someone or something other than yourself. I had trusted myself to get to that point, but I hadn't really ever practiced my faith of that, of putting 100% confidence. And so I did. And I was scared. Like, I had been taking the medication for 10 years, and then I got totally called on it, and they threw down the gauntlet. And I remember for the first time in my life walking into a church in Coronado all by myself. And I'm like, all right, well, I mean, I was raised a congregationalist. How does this prayer thing work? I'm going to start praying. Like, I'm going to stop doing this and see what happens. And I made a deal, like, if I can keep going without the medication, then it's meant to be. If I can't, then I'm going to get medically dropped. And so, I really talk a bit about the purpose of faith, and the faith. And I'm not talking about, you can have faith in anything. You can have faith in your teammates, but to be able to practice giving and letting go, to have 100% confidence in someone or something other than yourself, enables you to rise above whatever you think those limiting beliefs are.
That is unbelievable. That so intrinsic trust is in trust in yourself, which you
can't get to faith without trust, which is me why I love what you're talking about. Is forged by trust is the fundamental. If you don't have the trust, you can't skip it to get to faith, right? You can't skip, well, I don't trust everybody, but I'll have faith in you when I jump out of the helicopter, right? When you go off on a mission, you have faith in your teammates. You got to have 100% faith. You got to have faith when you're starting this business with your other teammates. Have faith in yourself that, like, oh my God, like I hope I can deliver something that people are going to buy. Right?
Now I'm gonna reverse the optic. This is what you had to do to have perseverance, to be unstoppable. But those things, people don't take those chances unless they trust you as well through a good, solid relationship. Why do you think it'd be very easy, in other words, for those SEAL instructors to say, you're done, you're out, but they chose not to? Why? What did they see in you?
Well, they really wanted me to sign that document. The medical guys were not happy with me. And I think, they respected the tenacity of saying, okay, roll me back. I'll start all the way back to the day after Hell Week. And I was halfway through second phase.
So you didn't at least have to go Hell Week again. You
no. After you go through Hell Week, they don't make you think.
All right, good. You imagine? Oh my God. I still have no idea how you got through Hell Week with asthma.
So I wasn't taking the medication that week, but I had doubled down on, and this medication was a bunch of pills called Theodore.
Right.
Maybe I did sneak some. I can't totally, Hell Week is it's really hard to sneak.
Blur, right.
On that stuff. But
so what did they see in you? What did anyone see in you along the way? You overcame a lot at a lot of different points. And I think, so here's what I'm getting at. Even from your time at the SEALs, but before that, at the Naval Academy, you went through some trials and tribulations there as well with conduct, but someone had to see something in you to keep you, to get you through. What are people seeing in you at this point that you might not have been seen?
I really cared about everybody around me.
There you go.
I failed the 4-mile run right before Hell Week because I slowed down to push a teammate to help him speed up. And I took it for the team. The guys, I got hammered for that. And they're like, if he can't pass it on his own, you don't help your teammate. And I'm like, no, that's not right. And, they would play these practical jokes on you. It's not felt like a practical joke, but I had a really strong team member, and they said, hey, we're gonna pretend that you went and quit, and I'm gonna pull you out of the class. And he said I quit, and I got up and I ran over him like, you're not quitting. And they're like, Mr. Mills, you get back down. I'm like, I'm not getting back down. He is not leaving this class. And they would do these moments of testing how much did you really care about everyone else in your team.
Did that come natural for you?
That did. I have to tell you, like, I wasn't any rock star runner. I mean, the only thing I was good at was pull-ups because of rowing, right?
Right.
Big guy. So you get a 6'3" guy that can knock out 35 pull-ups. That's solid.
Impressive.
But I sucked at running. And it was okay. I was middle of the pack at swimming, and ironically, push-ups were my worst.
It's and then you invent the perfect push-up.
Right.
The things we challenge with most in life are the things that we tend to try to master. And
Yeah,
so since breathing
great.
seemed to be your thing, you've mastered breathing and living.
Yeah.
Pretty
Robin, I have to tell you, you kind of stumped me on that question. I've never been asked that question before. And I typically am not introspective on, hey, why did they keep me? I just was like, I'm just not taking no for an answer. I'm just going to keep coming after them.
But there's always a reason. And when we talk about trust, it's the intrinsic. And you had an immense amount of trust in yourself. You push yourself. Your mother and your dad modeled this behavior of not being a victim and taking charge of your life, your circumstances, and doing what you can do. And it's throughout your amazing book very well also. But you're only given those opportunities and those chances when people see something in you. And they see something that we're unaware of a lot of times because of that reverse optic. And those are the things that are great for people to capture and try to remember, because those are what forge relationships that get us through. But some of us are born with this selflessness and some of us aren't. And I love really highlighting the fact that the ones that are doing the selfless servant leadership combined with this unstoppable nature, that is the ones that thrive. And so people were seeing things in you all along the way. That was just interesting.
So I have a thought on that. Early on, remember when I was telling you, like, I scored against my own team 4 different ways, right?
Right.
I sucked
Right.
at all these sports. And then I found rowing, and rowing for 8 oars perfectly in the water. It is the ultimate team function. You can't be a quarter of a second off. If you're a quarter of a second off, that boat's not going to go as fast, right?
Right.
And so, and by the way, I have failed way more than I have ever succeeded. And so by the time I get to SEAL team, by the time I even got to Naval Academy, I knew this was a team sport. Like, I can't do this alone. I know there's a whole bunch of things that I am not good at, and that I need others. And so it always became a priority for me to be humble enough to go, look, yeah, I'm pretty good at rowing, but you're great at this and that. And tell me how to do an Excel spreadsheet. Like, I don't know how to do these things. And
right.
And being very deeply curious and willing to build trusting relationships with all kinds of diverse personalities at a very early age, because I needed them.
Right.
I couldn't do it by myself. I just knew it.
And that's where it all began.
I think that's where it all began, because I'm no superhero.
You talk about this in your book too. It's the reps. And your reps of rowing, of having to be in perfect sync with others and having everyone rely on you as much as you're relying on them. You had early reps.
Transformational time for me.
So you get to the SEAL teams, and so you leave the Navy and you do this next phase of life, and what you're teaching, what you're preaching about being unstoppable and leading yourself. And you have these 3 levels of leadership, which I'd love to get into as well.
So I will tell you, I felt very blessed in SEAL team. I had the opportunity to lead 3 different platoons. We had fantastic deployments. Like, I was just lucky. And I was getting to this point where I think it was time for me to do something else. And I had this unique opportunity that I got handpicked to be the executive officer of SEAL Team 2, which is typically reserved for somebody 5 years my senior.
Yeah.
I was just doing it for a 9-month period of time while they got in a lieutenant commander that could be the real XO. And I looked at this, I was like, well, this is what the job is, I think it's time for me to go try something else. And I ended up going to business school. I got to business school and I felt a lot like your son does right now. Like, I'm at the top of my game. I've been very highly ranked platoon commander many times. And all of a sudden I'm sitting in a quantitative skills review program at Carnegie Mellon University. And I am jumped out of an airplane last week. And now I'm going, what have I done? I don't remember any of this math. And I'm at the bottom of the barrel, but I wasn't, because I'm actually was starting at a higher level, right, than when I started. And I had to go through some really hard times trying to become a civilian. I didn't actually think I'd make the turn. I got out of Carnegie Mellon and moved to San Francisco because I thought we'd strike it rich in stock options in some software company. And I was like, well, I don't actually like software. I don't even relate with it. Like, I don't want to learn how to code it. It's not interesting to me. And then September 11th happened. And I was like, and by the way, I went back in the reserves. I'm going to go back in. And my wife said at the 11th hour, she's like, hey, I'll support you, but you've always wanted to start your own business. Let's take the time to do it right now. And it was at that inflection point. I didn't have any money. My in-laws said, why don't you come up at our summer house in the San Juan Islands and you can just be here and just think about what you want to do next. And so I finally decided, like, you know what? I'm going to work in an industry that's going to be a part of my life, regardless if I worked in it or not. And so I picked fitness, and I really looked at fitness as not just about building biceps, but about taking control of your life. And the idea was, if you can take control of your body, then you can take control of your life. All the same things you need to take control of your body are exactly the same things. Maybe there's some different skills you need, but the same actions are required. And that became what our company's mission statement, vision statement, we called it the perfect promise. Right. The company turned into Perfect Fitness, and we had this one page, Perfect Promise. And I talked about how the same methodology for taking control of your body, whether you want to build muscle or lose weight or run faster, all of those same persistences that you needed to get those things done are exactly the same things you can do to write a book, to raise a family, to start a business, to get your promotion. Pick it. It's all the same. And as I was going through this, one of my good buddies, Neil Roberts, was the first Navy SEAL to die in Afghanistan. And as I was grieving him, I realized his son, 18 months old, was going to get a just in case letter from Neil. I had written 3 just in case letters while I was at SEAL Team, but they were to my mom, my dad, and my brother, right? And then it got me wondering, because Jennifer was now pregnant with her first child, what did Neil say to an 18-month-old son? So I started on the side, only on airplanes, writing what became Be Unstoppable 10 years later. And so I had stayed on this path of, okay, I'm going to help people take control of their bodies, but what I really want to help them do eventually is help them take control of the life they want to live.
And that's your why?
And that's my why.
So that is the why that you've been living since your mother dug her fingernails into your arm, taking control.
Yeah. So I got to practice what I preach, right?
Yeah.
I still stay, like, I'm been climbing the 7 summits, going to Antarctica to go to the South Pole this fall.
Tell me about this adventure you're going on. So you've done the 7 summits, or you're still working on it?
We've done 3. So I've done one in Russia, Elbrus. Wow. I've done, and then I just did Aconcagua, which is down in South America, right? So wow. Elbrus is 18.5, Denali's 20,300 or so. Aconcagua is 22.8. And then my buddy and I were like, well, if we're going to go to Antarctica and climb Mount Vincent, let's ski to the South Pole too. So like, why not? Right. I mean, I'm 53 years young. I'll be 54. Actually, I leave the day after my birthday. Most of the time we do the climbs for a charity group. We raise money for a charity group. We just did a fundraise for our charity group here. It's we send kids to camp in the school. And
what charity group?
It's called the Guardsmen. It's been around for 75 years. It has nothing to do with National Guard or anything. But
right.
We raise money to send at-risk Bay Area kids to camp in the school.
That's fantastic.
Very involved for 22 years with that group.
What inspired you to become part of that group?
The gentleman that hired me out of Carnegie Mellon, who had been a Carnegie Mellon grad, he brought me out and he goes, look, I'll teach you what I know about entrepreneurship, but you're going to join this group. You don't know anybody out here. And this is the group that you'll start to meet people and you'll get to meet the people that really want to serve. And it has been a transformational experience.
So he was Captain Pete telling you, hey, this is your tribe you have to join, and it's going to be relationships that get you to the next level.
Yeah, it is. And I'll give you another little vignette is, you hear a lot about my mom, but my dad and I drove across country before starting Buds. And he had been an Air Force officer for 4 years. And he's like, Alden, I really don't have much to offer you. Like I was in Intel, like you're going into a totally different field. And he said, I just have one thing for you. When you get stuck, and you will get stuck, don't think about how stuck you are. Just go find a place to serve. Just go serve. Just go give when you get stuck. And this is a total side note, but the day after I decided I'm going to give up the medical drop and I'm going to go after this and see what happens, a buddy of mine showed up over at the base and he knew that I was sitting around now for 5 weeks trying to get ready for the next phase. He's like, hey, do you want to go be a volunteer with me and go to the Easter SEALs program? And we're going to teach paraplegics how to swim. Okay, well, you don't teach paraplegics how to swim. You just swim them, right? And there were huge hot tubs and we'd lower these folks in and I would spend hours, And so I got to tell you, like, every time I've been stuck in my life, I go figure out a place to serve. Even when you're not thinking about the karmic reason of it coming back, or like, I'm just going to give without expectation of return. And I can map my world of successes. Every time I gave, I would get tenfold back. And, I really think that Easter SEALs week, it sent something out in the universe that helped me kind of get over this hump, this limiting belief about my asthma. And I never took the medicine since.
So what happened after you stopped taking the medicine?
No, I just remember doing these runs and I'm like, oh man, I got to do these runs. And I've always had a problem running and without the medicine. And I just remember flipping a switch going, you know what? I'm going to keep my lungs going because I am going to yell positive things to the entire squad the whole time. Sure. Let's go, boys. We got this. We got this. Right. And I just kept doing it. I kept forcing the air out. And I remember making that switch on one particular run. And then all of a sudden the run wasn't so bad anymore. It's like, oh, this is an opportunity to fire everybody out. I'm just going to go out there and be a cheerleader for the next 5 miles. And sure. Those things happen. And so I know I took a total divergent when you're talking
but this
serving.
is it's so important though. What are the biggest hindrance people have to being unstoppable?
Number one, right in here, right? When you read my second book, Unstoppable Teams, the first chapter is about this conversation that we constantly have. And I call the conversation between the whiner and the whisperer. And this is the first step of learning how to lead ourselves. We all have the whiner. We know what the whiner sounds like. Who do you think you are for trying out for SEAL team? Why do you think you can make it? You have asthma. Don't you know that? By the way, you're not a good runner. You suck at push-ups, right? It picks up on everything you're bad at. Neurologically, psychologically speaking, that's negativity bias, right? But I'm personalizing it. It's the whiner. We all know the whiner and how it speaks to us to try and prevent us from taking the initial action of trying.
Right. Fear in the start.
Right. And then, because we have these three main portions of our journey. The first part is coming up with the idea of like, hey, I think I want to go to SEAL team. Are you crazy? Don't even bother trying. And then when you get yourself through that, like, okay, I'm going to start training for it. Right. Then you start, so you get past the first initial hump of the whiner's blocking force, which is don't even bother trying. Don't even bother showing up to the starting line, right? And then you get the next one, which happens probably about, I don't know, after a couple of failures, or you're not going as fast as you thought, or you're like, this is harder than I thought, but you're starting to have these little micro failures. Then the whiner's like, see, I told you, why are you even bothering? Forget about it. It can't be done. You're not good enough. You don't have what it takes, blah, 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 because you failed a couple of times, right? And so your whiner's trying to now give you the reason to believe that you're not good enough.
Right.
That's the second major milestone. And then the final major milestone, which, by the way, is when the large majority of people quit in Hell Week. And when they quit is right before dawn.
Right.
And why is that? Because it's darkest before dawn. It's coldest before dawn. There's no hope at that point. They feel like they've run out of steam. They're in this pit of despair for themselves, having a victim mentality. And the whiner's like, give it up. It's over. You can't do it. Just get this over with and go quit. And those three major blocking forces is what the whiner brings. But if you can shut the whiner out and realize like, hey, this whiner is actually there for a reason. And every time I hear the whiner, I'm like, I'm on the right path. Okay, this is good. And then the whisperer, much quieter. We hear from the whisperer from a different source, right? From our heart, perhaps from our gut. Get up. Try again. You can do it. Keep going. And sometimes we need that whisperer in our closest friends because we also have whiner friends too. And we have to pay attention to who we are allowing to put words in here, things we want to watch here, what we even say to ourselves here. The whiner and the whisperer show up in all of those mediums. And we have to lead ourselves with that conversation first and foremost.
Absolutely. So how do people maximize the whisper?
We then have to understand our power of focus.
Mm.
We only have a few things that we have control over, but those few things, Robin, will allow us to change our destiny.
What are they?
How we think. Thinking then goes to how we want to feel, and then using our focus to decide where we're going to put our energy to take the action. That action then becomes a loop, and that loop is deciding, do I have a reason to believe that I can keep taking this action? And when those three things, think and feel, go into this focus, and I think of focus like a focus. I call it the focus funnel. It's just a funnel. We all have it, right? When we start to really focus, it turns into a funnel and pumps that energy that we have into taking an action. It could be an action that we like to, okay, I'm not going to take an action. That's still taking an action. Or I'm taking an action, but I'm not fully committed because I'm not 100% sure I can do it. And then we take that action and we fall up short. And then we go into our reason to believe because we have a belief system and we say, see, told you it can't be done. And that belief system feeds back into how we think, how we feel, because that's a loop. The thinking, feeling loop generates the emotion. The emotion goes into the funnel. The emotion What is the definition of emotion? Energy in motion. I didn't come up with that, but I love that description.
I like that too.
Actually came out of conscious leadership. I think it's a fantastic way to describe it. It's just energy in motion. Our focus takes that emotion to drive an action. We drive the action, we look at it and we go, well, I didn't get there yet, but I learned something. I'm going to try it again. People tell me all the time, like, man, you just you're the overnight success. You created the perfect push-up. And, all of a sudden I'm like, no. It didn't work that way. Like, I raised $1.5 million and learned $1,475,000 worth of ways not to launch this product, which was the product before the perfect push-up. Only 25 grand left. Everyone said, you're an idiot. It's over. I've looked at bankruptcy 3 times. Like, no, you had to keep believing, right? And what ends up happening is people are like, well, seeing is believing. I'm like, no, it's the other way around. You first have to believe before you actually see what's going to come. When we go and metaphorically set sail to a new harbor to be your son, and he is leaving the Naval Academy harbor, and he is going to set sail across a metaphorical horizon to be a Marine. He has to believe way before he could actually see and experience being a Marine. So he's going through a lot of different trials and tribulations in his head, questioning himself, well, why didn't I just go Navy? If I go Navy, I could do that. That's just a whiner saying, no, come on, I'll give you an out. I'll give you an out. Because the whisperer is like, no. We want this struggle. This makes our ship stronger. And it's that inflection point. Now I'm going back to my metaphor here of leaving the comfort zone of our known harbor, comfort zone of being a battalion commander, comfort zone of being one of the top mids at the Naval Academy. It's huge, right? You're at the top. And now all of a sudden you're going to go to this new place that you can't even see it, but it's over there, way past the horizon. That's where we have to lead ourselves. In that inflection point between losing sight of land and saying, you know what, I'm going to have enough faith in myself. I can do this. And I'm going to deal with all these obstacles, the wind, the water, the waves. They're going to push me all around, but I'm going to keep my course heading and I will persevere.
So what's the one thing people listening could do to silence the whiner today and be unstoppable that they should start?
Take an action. Take one action. Now, I will tell you, here's my actions from yesterday. I make these cards, right? The little daily action cards. I have this little wooden box, right? I'm not here to pitch anybody this, but I do daily action cards. On one side are goals. The other side are tasks.
Where'd you come up with that?
Through my own process of like, hey, this is about taking action. This isn't complicated. We don't need a big spreadsheet. Like, what is one thing I can do towards my goal? Like when I write a book, my goal is I got to write 500 words.
Right.
I just got to write 500 words. I'm not going to write 50,000 in one day. I got to write 500.
Right.
So right now I'm writing book 3. And one of my goals is that I have to do the next draft of the table of contents, but I got to work on it every day. Another one of my goals is I have to get ready for the South Pole. I am really fast to gain weight. I got to lose 20 pounds. Got to work out today. And then another one of my goals is I'm working on this software program to help people accomplish their goals. But at the end of the day, when you take, and this is a blank one, you take these blank cards, right? And you can write notes on the back, but I keep them all in this little recipe box, and I have a quotation in here. The path to be unstoppable is paved with daily action towards your goal. That's it.
Life is simple when you actually have a path that you're walking in it.
Yeah.
And you take care of yourself, you lead others by being of service. When you get in that funk, you be of service to others. Alden, what's something that I didn't ask you that you think people need to hear before you go?
We covered a lot of ground. Like I really end up getting to make sure that people understand you got to practice letting go. Letting go means you got to have faith. Faith in someone else, something, you pick it, right? I'm agnostic to what you want to have your faith in.
Right.
But until you practice totally letting go, it is really hard to cut that anchor chain from your harbor of familiarity to move across an ocean, metaphorically speaking, to something that you just believe in, right? Now, I will also say this. So you ask, what did I bring up? I'm a huge believer in creating your own dream vision board. These are dreams. These are visions.
Wow.
They come together in my own little card here. If you're your own master and commander, which is what I talk about in Be Unstoppable, then you have to be willing to set your course. You got to be willing to dream with reckless abandon. And I want you to dream with such reckless abandon that you have no limits on your dream. Don't dream from the ground up. Well, if I do this, maybe I can do this and then I'll get there. No, I want you to dream. Give me 10 years, 20 years out. Where do you want to be there?
Right.
And forget about how you're going to get there. Go out there and give that energy. And then let's figure out ways to take daily action towards it.
John F. Kennedy didn't say how we're going to go to the moon. He said we're going to go to the moon. Figure it out.
Let's get it done.
Yeah. Alden, where can people go to start using some of these tools and resources you have to better their lives and make it one step closer to that dream?
BeUnstoppable.com.
BeUnstoppable.com. And I got to tell you, if you were a lover of books, especially if you listen to Audible, his book was so good to listen to start with Be Unstoppable, Unstoppable Teams. But everything that Alden offers is fantastic on starting and forging that path towards intrinsic internal trust with others, and forging the teams you need to move forward in life. Alden, I thank you for your friendship. Thanks for sharing your amazing story of being unstoppable. And I can't wait to hear about your adventures of going for the 7 summits and crossing Antarctica. That is just so crazy to me. You're doing amazing stuff. So thank you so much for all you do. And thanks for your service. And thanks for coming on and sharing.
Everybody, remember, unstoppable is a choice. Choose it every day. You got this. Thank you, Robin.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Forged by Trust. If you took away at least one new idea, make a note of it and pass it on to someone else who may need it. If you're interested in more information about how I can help you forge your own trust building, communication, and interpersonal strategies for yourself or your organization, please visit me on my website at www.peopleformula.com. I'm looking forward to sharing my next Forged by Trust episode with you next week when we chat with the world-acclaimed interview and interrogation master, Jim Pyle, as he shares with us his conversation codex.